I had a huge decision to make. Where I decided to play football at the next level could not only shape my career as an athlete, but it could alter my entire life for better or worse. It was a bit overwhelming. I had become a 4-star recruit in what seemed like no time at all, and it was kind of crazy, I'm not gonna lie. Especially since I barely had a legitimate offer on the table before my senior year. I did a lot of thinking. I needed to get to a program that could help develop my talents. I needed to fit into a scheme that would take advantage of my speed and agility. But more than anything else, I needed exposure. I wasn't necessarily the hottest prospect coming out of high school, so building my brand would be essential this season. Maybe I could get a fat nil deal by the season's end. With all that being said, I decided to take advantage of my scholarship offer to Michigan State University. Being a Spartan checked every box. I knew I'd get a chance not only to prove myself in front of my school, but with the games they had lined up every year in the Big Ten, the lights would be bright. I was a Spartan, bro. I couldn't believe it. And by the end of my talk with Coach Tucker and Coach Reed, I figured we could do something special here. Coming into our first practice, I had knots in my stomach the size of tennis balls. First impression is really important. I didn't expect to start, but it was important for me to gain the trust of my teammates. So if I did get a snap, they knew I would do everything I could to help us win. Apparently, Coach was intrigued by the film of my senior year because he didn't hesitate to put me in the Wildcat. And I did pretty well there. I was used in a lot of different looks, and I put everything I had into this practice to prove not only to the team, but myself that I'm supposed to be here. This practice might as well have been a game for me. I need to show that I belong, and I believe I took the right step forward. And so did Coach apparently. He told me that I could challenge for the second string next week. Let's go! Our first game was against one of our in-state rivals in Western Michigan. As a team, we had big goals this year. We weren't exactly touted to have a monster year, but we wanted it that way. We could prove everyone wrong, and it started with the win in our season opener. The special teams coach had let me know that I'd be starting on kick return, and I was ecstatic. I wouldn't take this role lightly. It was my chance to show that I could be a serviceable weapon for this team. Unfortunately, I started off with just a 25-yard return, but I knew that I could do better. I also landed the job of punt return, but our opponents decided it was better to punt the ball away from me. I didn't see the field much, but the opportunities I got, I put my all into. And to be completely honest, it wasn't exactly a shootout. I watched from the sidelines as both teams would remain scoreless halfway through the third quarter. On my next return, I wanted to help get the offense in a better position, but Coach Tucker had instructed me to allow the ball to bounce into the end zone. It was a bit frustrating not being able to help my team more. And to make matters worse, I had to watch as the Broncos got the first tutty of the game to put us down late in the second half. I tried to give us the best field position that I could, praying that we would come up with an answer to our offensive struggles. But we couldn't, and we ended up falling to Western Michigan 7-0. I tried to do what I could, but it just wasn't enough. Everyone was frustrated by how the game turned out last week, and it was showing on the field. As disappointed as I was, I couldn't help but think of the silver lining and the opportunity given to me. Coach had already told me that I could challenge for number 2 on the depth chart, but with our play last game, he might just be even more willing to make moves on the offense. I hope that doesn't make me a bad teammate, but I know I can help this team reach its potential, and I just want the chance to prove it. I went into practice running like my life depended on it, because in many ways it did. My hard work had not gone unnoticed. Coach let me know that I'd be number 2 in the RB room from now on. My hard work was paying off. Going into our next game against the Bulls, we had even more of a chip on our shoulder. If we wanted any chance of being successful this year, we had to figure it out quick. Being second on the depth chart, I'd be able to put the team in a better position to win, and I couldn't wait. I started off with a return, heading to the sideline, almost breaking it off, trying to set the tone for the offense early. The very next play, I get on the field for my first time ever. I know the ball probably isn't going my way, but that's no excuse for my botched weak side block. Despite my sorry attempt, we ended up putting points on the board first. We already felt a bit of weight leap off of our shoulders. I got on the field again to pass block out on second down, and I tried my best to use my small frame to get in the edge's way. But like clockwork, I was taking out the play after. My first real shot at running the ball came on an option play, but I guess Peyton Thorne didn't feel like it was safe to pitch me the ball, and I had to watch us struggle to find the end zone yet again. Frustration started to settle in, but honestly it didn't last long. I had to be patient, and on this all-go play, Thorne gave me a shot as I got open in the seam of the coverage, hauling in a 32-yard catch. I felt like this was my breakout play and a sign of things to come. My teammates were loving it. On the very next play, we scored on an easy dot and extended the lead even further. We were rolling, and because of that, Coach Johnson let me get in on some snaps in the fourth, and I knew that experience would help me down the line. We ended winning against the Bulls, and perhaps the second most important takeaway is that we actually were able to get into the end zone and put up points. points. I felt that the Spartans were on the right track once again. There was far less tension in the practice going into week 3 of our schedule as we faced an FCS school this coming week. But regardless of that fact, my goal remained the same. I was coming for that RB1 spot, and today's practice was a perfect chance to show the coaches that I was ready. I was running all over the place, trying to be as impactful as possible in this week's practice. So maybe, just maybe, I'd be more involved in this week's game plan. And apparently I had done enough to finally get my shot. Coach Tucker hinted at my position battle in next week's practice. As we took on the Kodiaks at home, I got implemented into the offense as sort of a wing pretty early, and Peyton didn't hesitate to throw me a dot. I could tell the coach's confidence in me was growing steadily as I began to get more snaps over the course of the season. Even with the extra snaps, I still retained my job as a kick and punt return specialist. To me, all my jobs were of equal importance, so I really wanted to break a return for a tutty soon. It appeared that we had gotten our act together on offense as I watched as our guys marched down the field and looked on as Peyton threw an absolute dot to Jeremy for the first tutty of the game. And we just kept tacking on point after point until halftime gave the Kodiaks a breather. And I just kept doing my job, returning punts to the very best of my abilities. But if I'm being honest, this game was a bit of a no contest. And we ended up running the clock out, showing as much mercy as we could. Probably should have kneeled because my teammate got smacked at the end. I guess that's what we get. We had a series of grueling practices throughout the week, but today was my practice. It was the day that I challenged for the RB1 spot on the depth chart, and I was chopping at the bit to get out on the turf all morning. Every rep, I gave it 110%. I had no ill will towards Daniel Baker, our starting back, but I genuinely felt as if I deserved to be in the spot. With me out on the field, our offense could reach their highest potential. As far as I was concerned, I could definitely give our offense what it was missing. A shifty, explosive back that had the potential to break open and generate big plays if given the chance. It was my time. And Coach Johnson and Tucker finally gave me the nod. I was getting my first start as a collegiate back. But man, did I pick a hell of a week to make it to the top of the depth chart. I traveled back to my home state to play the number 15 team in the nation. And not much had changed. Notre Dame was still the powerhouse team that I grew up watching. And now on my first start, in front of family, I'd get the chance to show not only the coaching staff, but the world what I could do in the battle for the megaphone. We were moving the ball pretty well against the Fighting Irish. I wouldn't say I was a reason for this, but our offense was smoothing out and it felt good to know it was happening while I was out there. The running game had found its legs, and the success we began to have gave me confidence like I'd never had before. As a starter, I felt even more responsibility to put my team in a position to win. But our offense started to slow down by the second quarter, and I couldn't help but question the play calling in the red zone. But in the second half, Coach simplified the play calling and started getting back to the basics. Given my speed, he even tried me out in the slot where I had a chance to pick up a first down, but I lost my balance and stepped out of bounds. In the fourth, we had to make something happen. We knew we needed to score here to keep the game competitive, and we did just that as Peyton threw a huge dot to Reed into the end zone as we took the lead. Our defense got a clutch stop, and we were staring victory in the face. We just needed to take control of the clock. In this situation, Coach Tucker showed that he really trusted me to secure the game, and I would not let him down. I ran the ball like my life depended on it, securing every first down we desperately needed. And I don't know why, but to top it off, we widened the gap at the end of the game just to be sure, I guess. The Irish wanted to answer back, but they had no chance. We leave this hard-fought game with a big win over the number 15 team in the nation, and we are fired up. Coach Reed actually let me know that I had my best game to date with 122 yards on the ground. A good performance, a win, all while back in my home state. Can't get much better than that. After our bye week, we had our first conference game against Iowa, the number 16 team in the country and a team sitting atop the Big Ten West Division. This, like Notre Dame, was a huge opportunity to stake our claim as one of the better schools in the nation. Coach Tucker knew what type of defense we were facing, so he started throwing me in different looks early on. We were moving the ball pretty well despite the rain. Because of that, the dog, Jaden Reed, got us on the board first in a tough away game. I was a little worried about holding onto the ball in the rain, but so far I had no problem keeping it tucked. In fact, the rain might have been more beneficial to us than the Hawkeyes because they were having a little trouble sticking with our weapons in the open field, which allowed us to take the lead at the end of the first half. The Hawkeyes took the lead shortly thereafter, but I wasn't having any of that. Great players impact the game in more ways than one, and I embodied that by taking this return 89 yards to the house for a tutty. My first ever kick return touchdown of my collegiate career. And just like that, we were back on top. I kept trying to oppose my will on the game, knowing how important it was. But I also knew I had to trust my teammate. And maybe I needed to lean on them a bit more than I thought because the rain finally got to me, causing me to drop the ball on special teams. If I had called for a fair catch, maybe things would go differently. But coach didn't lose faith in me. He kept me in the game plan with no hesitation. But ultimately, Iowa's defense held strong and we leave here with a tough loss. This one hurt. We played our hearts out, but we start conference play 0-1. In our second conference game, we hosted a traveling Hoosier team. And I don't know who rigged the rankings, but somehow Indiana was undefeated and the number 16 team in the nation. The guys on the offense didn't care if they were undefeated, honestly. We were determined to bounce back from the game we felt we should have won last week. And I was personally determined to show why I should consistently be one of the top weapons on this team. And I displayed that by taking this kick return back to the crib with no effort. But one of my teammates crushed me, getting called for clipping on a sure tutty. But that wouldn't stop my determination in the slightest. We just went to next play mode. But it wasn't easy to accumulate anything, as the Indiana defense showed exactly why they were undefeated. That is, until they underestimated Jeremy Bernard's raw speed and gave up a bomb for 59 yards downfield. It wasn't a productive day for me, but we did manage to slip away with the win. We were able to take out another ranked team who are our conference rivals, all while killing their undefeated streak. After last week's loss, this is just the relief the team needed. The beginning of the season had its ups and downs, but I had to remain positive. After all, I became the starting running back on a Power 5 school as a true freshman, and I could only go up from here. I wholeheartedly plan to finish out this season strong, but hey, you never know what could happen.